Welcome to the Restoration Psychology Podcast. In this episode, Jason and Stacey explore how therapy can help women understand and navigate the experiences, pressures, and expectations in different seasons of life through a biopsycho-social-spiritual lens. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we hope you enjoyed this episode.
To the weary, the hurting, and the hopeful, welcome to the Restoration Psychology Podcast, where we invite you to rest, heal, and restore. My name is Jason. I have with me today one of the counselors here at Restoration, Stacey Lee. We're going to be talking today about women's issues. But Stacey, before we jump into that, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so Stacey Lee. And I feel like I wear a lot of different hats in my life. One of them that shows up here is I'm a therapist here at Restoration. Been here for a couple of years. Before that, so therapy is my second career kind of shift post having kids. I was in education at first and higher education, doing a lot of nonprofit programming at a higher education institution to connect local school districts to the college and do some community work that way. So I was doing that work for quite a bit. Also do a lot of ministry work as a part of my other kind of hat that I wear. And then the other parts are I am a wife and a mother to two, 3 angel babies in heaven. So lots of different lived experiences that show up here as a therapist.
Yep. And I know if someone were to read your bio on our website, it has women's issues listed there. Some people might see that on a bio or see it in counseling somewhere and just think that's counseling for women.
Right.
Right. How would you define that specialty?
Yeah. So, women, anyone who identifies as female, that's a pretty big group of people, right? And a lot of people think of it as, you just counsel other women at different stages of life. And that is a small part of it. But more than just a population group or an age demographic, it's actually a distinct lens through which I look at the person in front of me. Yeah. And so historically in psychology, the question has been, what is wrong with you? Right? What's wrong with you? Yeah. Your anxiety, your depression, what's wrong with you that you are anxious, depressed, or struggle with XYZ? And oftentimes the shift is from more of a systemic lens. So it's not what is wrong with you, but how is your environment impacting you? Okay. Or how has your upbringing impacted you to have the things you're experiencing, wrestling with now? And so it is a lens through, it's a shift in the way I'm approaching that person. And so in other words, it's, what cultural expectations or societal expectations. We see from history and research that there is a lot that's unique to the female experience, whether it's gender socialization, cultural expectations, uniquely do experience more trauma in different ways.
And you'd have to know that cultural experience to know how would that be.
How would that show up?
How would that show up for a woman?
Yeah. And so not just pathologizing what's wrong with you that you have anxiety, but what happened around you or what's happening around you currently that is causing that anxiety to come up, right? Most people have a lot of stress that they're experiencing. And oftentimes for a lot of people, and women especially, sometimes it's an adaptive strategy, right? Based off of what's happening around you or what you've carried with you all your life. You're showing up in that space and you're adapting, but often that becomes unhealthy or not helpful. And that's when they come to my office usually. Yeah.
You may have mentioned this in some of what you were just talking about, but how does working with women's issues, how does it show up in the counseling room?
Yeah. So we talk a lot here about the biop-sycho-social-spiritual model. So it's not just a person's emotions or their mental health per se. It's everything factors into well-being and mental health. So biology, the biological pieces in a person, their psychological state, their emotions, their thoughts, their social context, their spiritual context, and even sexuality covers all of those areas.
Yep.
So all of those facets and things that make us who we are, I'm looking from that lens. And for a woman, often there are unique added pieces to that,
Sure.
right? So for example, biology, whether it's puberty or postpartum or perimenopause or menopause or any of those different biological experiences and states, that is definitely impacting the person in front of me, right?
Sure.
And so there's that piece. There's the psychology piece around their emotions, their thoughts, their behaviors, socially, what's going on around them. I would say that we saw this with the pandemic when we were all in lockdown and isolation.
Yeah.
What do we see? A huge increase in mental health issues.
Yeah.
Largely tied to stress and isolation and the fear of the unknown often. And so we see it for everybody, but women especially. There's a lot of research and counseling theories around how we heal through relationships and connection. And so when there's chronic isolation, or for whatever reason in their social circle, there's a feeling of isolation that can often impact a person's well-being.
Sure.
And so the social piece, alongside spirituality, alongside sexuality, all of these pieces, I'm looking at that lens. And oftentimes I'm encouraging women to look at that lens for themselves and understand, wait, what is my relationship with this anxiety or with this depression or with these expectations upon me? As women, we get that message. You have to be everything to everyone all the time and be happy and well rested and have a hobby and have a side gig. And it's just,
you got to be doing all the things
at 100% all the time.
Yeah.
And that's a lie. And it's one that we've all bought into.
I'm glad you said that.
It's a lie. And it's one that we've all succumbed to.
Yeah.
Both men and women have succumbed to. And so how do we untangle that narrative of you have to be all of that all the time?
Yep.
Where does that internal script come from? That you have to be a good mother and that looks like this. Or you have to be a good daughter and that looks like this, right? Yep. We all have those messages, both men and women, but I think for women there's unique nuances to that.
Yeah.
And I think historically the question is like, what's wrong with you? But the idea of you are not the problem. The problem is the problem. And so how do we externalize that narrative? How do we kind of peel out and take out the layers of that script and be like, okay, where did this message come from?
Yeah.
How does that impact you right now? How do you want that to impact you or not want that? How do we rewrite that for you?
Yeah.
How do we find healthy coping strategies? How do we navigate? So it's both processing some of that and also how do we build greater skills and more capacity to understand how to navigate that? Because it's a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
It's not just processing, but it's also like, how do I cope in my everyday life differently so I show up in my job or with my family or with my friends in a healthy way? And so it's balancing a little bit of both is what I'm often doing in the room. So that's pretty broad because with each client, there's a unique nuance to how that plays out. But the problem is the problem. So how do we understand that apart from just who we are in our core selves? How do we refine who we are in our core selves? Yeah. That's a big part of what I'm doing.
The problem is the problem. It feels like it should be a T-shirt.
I think
it would sell really well.
Probably. Maybe you should
Restoration psychology T-shirts. The problem is the problem. You mentioned a little bit ago some of the different biological or life stages or transitions that women might go through, from puberty to postpartum, infertility mixed in there, and perimenopause and menopause. And those they don't seem like those are just physical changes or transitions. It would seem that some of those are actually like identity changes or identity crisis. I'm curious, how do you walk alongside, or how do you help a woman navigate those various different changes or seasons of life? Yeah.
So the biggest thing I really keep track of is what is my lane, right? So what's my scope of competence? What am I able to work with? I cannot prescribe, right? I cannot say medically, here's what's going on. Yeah. And so that's the part where I'm really helping a client delineate, and it's not actually easily broken down to lanes either, right? There's a lot of overlap in some things. And so if it's not my lane, I'm working with the client with their whole medical team, whether it's their doctor or whoever's involved, dietitian, and any of those kind of things.
That's kind of a collaborative
effort around that, because mental health is a big part of that.
Sure.
But the part that I'm often working with is, for a lot of women in each of those different stages, it actually ends up being a lot of grief work. So grief work around losing their old sense of self.
Okay.
And feeling lost because they have lost their sense of self.
Yeah.
And what it really is it's losing their old identity. For example, I even have young teens that come to me and they struggle with puberty because they are so sad about not being a child anymore.
Sure.
And that shows up differently because of developmentally where they are able to articulate some of that than someone who's older, per se.
Yeah.
But I mean, even at that stage, too, a lot of women who go through that with menopause or even postpartum, newly being a mom, losing everything about you, but all you are is a mom.
Yeah.
So a lot of grief work around losing their old sense of self and finding a new sense of self and integrating that new sense of self with their core self is kind of what the work we're doing too.
Yeah.
And normalizing the experience for a lot of women. So there's some psycho-ed with this too, of like,
sure. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
This is here's the normal experience for a lot of women, and that norm is pretty broad range. How do we work with postpartum mood disorders? How do we work with all of those kinds of pieces? We're normalizing it, we're assessing for different things, and oftentimes for a lot of women there's so much shame and guilt that comes with their experience of whatever that life stage may be. In comparison with other women, body image, there's just so many layers to that. And so often it's normalizing it. There's some psychoeducation around it, and really walking women through like, okay, how do we grieve that old self, and how do we rediscover this new self, and then how do we integrate that into the core of who you are?
Great. For the woman out there who might be hopefully listening, I guess who might be listening, who's listening, and maybe they feel disconnected. She feels overwhelmed. Maybe like she's trying to juggle it all, like you were talking about before, like the cat in the hat, trying to keep everything up, and she's exhausted. What's one kind of powerful question or something that she might be able to ask herself in order to kind of reclaim the narrative of her life? Does that question make sense? Okay.
There's a lot, but one that just kind of comes to mind right now is like, we all have a gauge for like, oh, this is so much. There's so much. I'm feeling it. Whether it's you feel it in your body, or you sense it in racing intrusive thoughts, or you sense it in like just like in your heart, right? Like breathing, or like emotional outbursts, whatever, or like pulling away, isolating. There's a lot of signs for a lot of people that we're going through a lot. And maybe it's more than just tough it up, get through it, And in that moment, a question I often ask myself, and I encourage my clients to ask, is, I wonder why I'm doing this. Or I wonder who I'm doing this for.
It's good. Both good questions.
I wonder why I'm doing this. Why am I doing this? Why do I feel compelled to do this? Or why do I have these thoughts? Or the other part that's helpful is, who am I doing this for? And it's not that the answer is wrong or, per se, but the heart behind it is curiosity, right? Like,
I almost hear that as like, here's a way to get a first question that might take you to a second question or a third, and help you dig.
Unpack some of that. And that can be done introspectively within yourself. That can be done with trusted people, and that can be done here in the counseling space. The counseling space, what's unique about this is that it really is a third-party objective space, right? Like, there's only so much self-awareness and introspection that we can do within ourselves before the wheels start just like spinning and we lose track of it, right? That self-awareness is really critical and important. Clients who walk in with some degree of self-awareness, it's really helpful. We get to launch from a different place. And there's benefit with women, especially like other women, other mentor women in our lives, older women who've gone a few steps ahead of us in life stages, our peers, our daughters. There's lots of places where there's great conversation. And there's a level of bias to that, or you got to show up a certain way in some of those places too for some women. And so counseling becomes the objective third party. There's no bias here in this space of how you have to show up, right? And so that can be the benefit sometimes to unpack some of those questions in this kind of space.
Very good. For someone who might be interested in that, and maybe having you walk alongside them for some of that counseling, how would they get connected with you?
Yeah, we have a great website with all of our information. But take a look at the bios. You know, you kind of get to get a little flavor of each therapist in their bio, as well as their specialties and their expertise. You know, our number's on there to reach out and to connect. But I also offer a 15-minute free phone consultation with prospective clients, because it just helps to hear a voice, right, beyond just words on a page.
And I also get a sense to see, like, do I think I might mesh or gel with this person pretty well?
For sure. And I have a lot of clients who I encourage them to ask, like, hey, you know, what are you calling in for? What do you think you might need counseling for? And I get a feel for that. And I encourage them to ask me, like, hey, you know, what do you want to know about how I do counseling, how I show up in this space with someone like you, walking with the things you're carrying, and get a feel for some of that. Of course, one phone call won't always show all of that, but it can give a little picture to that as well. So that piece, I have a profile on Psychology Today, which is kind of the big directory for therapists. So some of those places are ways to connect with me and kind of reach out.
Good. Okay, I got a bonus question.
Nice.
For you. I'd love to hear, who is a woman who has inspired you, and why has she inspired you, or how has she inspired you? I'll let you kind of take the question, but who's a woman that's inspired you?
Yeah. I'm going to go with the first person that came to my mind, right? Because that feels the most accurate. And it feels a little cliche, because I'm going to say my mom. Okay. That feels so cliche,
Great.
I know.
Great. No, it's good.
And
it feels like it's how it should be.
Sure. And I know that that's like often like the appropriate answer, but truly it is my mom. And the reason for that is the older I get, I mean, we are a lot alike personality wise, and a lot about that has in my own therapy work, right? To be transparent, like unpacking some of that and figuring out where my own expectations and my own narrative comes from. And some of it is good and some of it is not so great. And some of it I don't want to replicate. But the older I get in life and the more I walk through my own lived experience, I think the more I really stand at like, wow, her own life experience as an immigrant, her own life experience and her own story and what she made of that to create the life she did for all of us. And it's pretty amazing and astounding. And she really is my role model. And there are things that I would do differently and I am doing differently, but there's a lot that I look up to and think, wow, could I have done that? I mean, I don't know. There's a lot. And seeing her now in this season of life, right? And seeing the life that she's making of herself. I think that's actually been a really cool thing to watch in her, even now in her 60s, which is now. I mean, when I was little, I was like, 60 feels old. But now I'm like, oh, that is so much life yet to live. That is a whole new chapter of life. And to see her really embracing that and really just flourishing in that season has been really incredibly encouraging to me to realize like there are big important seasons in your life as a woman, for a lot of women, and that looks different for every single person, right? But in the life that I have been given, how do I flourish in that, right? And it might take to your 60s to get there. It might, and it might be longer than that, or who knows? It might be sooner than that. But yeah, how do I thrive in this life? And that's what I've seen her do in this kind of latter season. And so
it gives you kind of a roadmap to see like
what it could be.
Yeah.
And that there's the best truly is yet to come, like more than we realize. And I think for a lot of women, there's so many messages around like, I don't know, oh, you hit 40 and it all goes downhill, or, all these things, or you hit menopause and it all change, and it does change and it does feel that way. Right. But there's more than just that too.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, Stacey, thanks for joining me today. Thank you guys for listening. We hope this something in this episode has been helpful for you or helps you consider ways that might be helpful for you.
Yeah.
Join us again on our next podcast. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Restoration Psychology Podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you're seeking counseling or have any other questions, please contact us at restorationpsychology.com.